Hello readers, I'm Amy, welcome to the channel, and today we are going to get comfy and cozy with some nice fall vibes. We are going to talk about vampires. I don't know if these teeth are going to stay in the whole time. God. These are ridiculously hard to melt the plastic correctly. Also, I'm going to talk funny as long as these things are in. So, I am getting together with, forget it. I'm getting together with real-life friend Demi, who recently started a booktube channel, and also Taylor from Page Screen Tay. So we are getting together and we are reading all about vampires in October. So there are a lot of Halloween-based readathons, so I'm trying to keep it fairly simple, keep the prompts pretty open so you can kind of make what you can of it. There's not a ton of prompts, but we'll go ahead and get started. So we are doing a group book, and that will be the Gilda Stories, and this is a black and queer vampire story, and it is really hard to find a black and or queer vampire story that is not erotica. No hate on erotica, but that's not really what I was looking for. That's not really my reading taste. But it's nice to find a book that is not erotica that is also black and queer. So if you would like to read that with us in October and get on Twitter and discuss it, there's not going to be a live show or anything, at least right now. I'm not planning on a live show. The idea of live shows makes me nervous, but hey, we'll see. Maybe that'll change as the month goes on. I don't know. So I have 4 prompts here. The first prompt is a book you want to sink your teeth into. This is a very open prompt. Whatever vampiric book you are just excited about and really want to dive into, do that. If you're really looking to read some Midnight Sun because that is the vampire book you have been looking forward to for years, do that. That's fine. It's whatever. For mine, book that I want to sink my teeth into, there are a couple. I found a lot of vampire books that I want to read, and I don't think I'm going to be able to read all of them this year. Right now I'm kind of between Fledgling by Octavia Butler and I Am Legend by Richard Matheson. Both of these books are ones that I've been interested in. I'm a little hesitant about Octavia Butler because I hear she can be tricky to get into, so this is probably more along the lines of book I want to sink my teeth into. But we'll see. I also really want to sink my teeth into the Gilda Stories, so that would work for that prompt. Also, feel free to mix and match as needed. Next prompt is classic vampire. So, of course, for classic vampire, you can only read Dracula, but not really, don't. I am actually currently reading Dracula in September for another book club that I am in because, if you don't know already, I am one of the co-hosts for the live show for the Goth Lit Club where we're talking about Dracula, and it's the day after my birthday that we do the live show, and I'm nervous, but I'm excited. So if you want to see me gush about Dracula, check it out then. Dracula is a classic, of course, but I'm also keeping the idea of the classic fairly open. So Carmilla is also a classic, which would actually fit for one of the prompts I'm going to talk about later. This book is actually older than Dracula, but it feels a little bit more modern, which is interesting, but I'll get into that later. Some other books that would fit for this prompt are I Am Legend and Salem's Lot. So while neither of these are particularly old books, I tend to think of any book that is pre-90s as being a classic or having the potential to be a classic if it has made a big impact on the genre. If the book came out in the 80s and it had a huge impact on the genre, it's a classic of that genre. So Salem's Lot and I Am Legend would totally count towards being a classic because they are vampire classics. They are part of what is famous in the niche genre of vampires. Then we have the non-traditional vampire. This one I'm also keeping pretty open. I would like to see people read something besides Twilight because Twilight and Dracula are not the only vampire books out there, but of course this readathon is also about what you make of it, and I would count Twilight as a non-traditional vampire story because they're glittery and they're vegans, for lack of a better term. So that's pretty non-traditional. I am going to be sinking my teeth into Bunnicula. I'm going to be borrowing this from Demi. I remember seeing this around as a kid. I don't know if I ever read it, but it's about a vampire bunny, and that is a pretty non-traditional vampire. I would also count queer vampire stories as non-traditional. In reading books like Dracula, vampires are a very sexual being, and they also tend to be fairly heterosexual, at least in my experience. So if you want to use a queer vampire story as a non-traditional book, of course you can do that. The last prompt that I have here I am calling Old Legends. This is about short stories and anthologies. You can do some nonfiction essays if you find something on vampires, novellas. So Carmilla could totally count towards this. Not only is it a classic, but it is from, I don't remember when it was published, but it's from before Dracula. It could also be kind of non-traditional in that it has very queer vibes to it. I don't know if it's actually a canonically queer book, but you get a really queer sense from this book, which is interesting since it's older than Dracula. But this is a classic, and it is also very, very short, so feel free to count that for Old Legends. I am also going to attempt to finish 100 Vicious Little Vampire Stories. I've been working on this puppy since like March. I'm enjoying it, but I don't feel a drive to read another short story when I'm finished with a short story, because it kind of feels like I'm finished with the whole thing, even though I'm not. But I'm going to try and read this for that. Down in the description below, I'm going to have just a list of a ton of other books that you can look into. So if you're having trouble finding some vampire reads, look in the description below and you will find plenty that you can sink your teeth into. So please join us from October 1st to October 31st. Get on Twitter, get on Instagram, and talk about these books with us. That's it for me. Please like, subscribe, be my friend on social media. Talk to me about vampires. Please follow Demi and Taylor. They are amazing people. And I'll see all of you in my next video. Bye, friends.